Hi everyone. Today we'll discuss about the secret and yet another profound sutra from Patanjali Yoga Sutra sessions is about honoring the practice. So we first start with what is mind? Is your mind you? So when we say, right, never mind. So your mind can never be you. Yeah, it is similar to like having you can analogize it to being like a wave and the ocean. So a wave can never touch the ocean, right? It comes out of an ocean, it has an entity for some time, and then it again goes back into the ocean, right? So wave actually is a part of the ocean itself, but it is not the ocean. Ocean is so much big, right? Similarly, it is said that your mind is just a small part to your existence. You are so much bigger. Hi Renu. Yeah. So a very very profound snippet of knowledge that touched me also is it says sato dirgha kala nairantarya satkar sevita dridha bhumi, which means what? As I was saying in my last session, that there is a postulate of practicing something for 1,000 hours, 10,000 hours, and then you become an expert about it. So what is Patanjali's version of it is that if you have to become a master at something, if you want to learn a new skill, which is a very thing that all of us are saying these days, because all of us are stuck at home, social distancing because of the coronavirus situation. So if you have to learn something new, what should you do? You should continue that practice for a long period of time, dirgha kala. Yeah. Now a lot of you may ask, what is the duration? Is it 1 day, 1 week, 1 hour, or 1 month, 1 year, 10 years, 100 years? What is the kala? Well, it is very people specific. So the only answer to that is, when you will be an expert at it, you yourself will know. So until then, you have to continue with your practice. Yeah. Dirgha kala. Nairantarya. Nairantarya is continuous, without a break. Yeah. If you see that, if you have to lose weight, so for example, you have joined a gym. Yeah. Have you seen that if you stop the gym and go back again, you see it doesn't have that effect. So in order to lose weight, if that is your goal, you have to go to the gym continuously. Yeah. Also, now first is for a long period of time, stipulated period of time. Second is continuously. Third is with honor and respect. Yeah. So it is said that in olden times that you have to honor everything that you do in your life. What happens when you start honoring or feeling reverence towards everything? You become in the present moment. For example, are you honoring your food? Are you honoring what you're listening? Are you listening to things with honor? Are you seeing with honor and reverence? Yeah, so honor everything that you have in life. So whenever you want to be a master at something, you have to honor that. Yeah. So these are the three component of learning that you need to learn for a long period of time, with continuity, and then with honor and reverence. So what happens? Your mind becomes strong and steady. As again, when your mind becomes strong and steady, you are able to take better decisions in life. So sato dirgha kala nairantarya satkar sevita dridha bhumi, and your mind is more in the now. Yeah. All of you who are watching the session, can you just snap your fingers and say now? And it's gone. Now and it's gone. So you'll see that the now is there for some time and then it just goes away. It doesn't go away, but you don't feel that the now, so the now changes every time, right? That is the significance of the present moment, the now. Yeah, the now or the present moment is vast and deep. It is just not linear. It is spherical. So as per our ancient rishis or seers, they say that time is linear, is spherical, but modern scientists say that they are linear. Yeah, so how can you experience this now very easily is with steady practice, with steady pranayam, with steady meditation. You'll see that your mind becomes calmer and you can start experiencing the now. You become more and more aware. You're aware of what you're talking. You're more aware what you're seeing. You're aware of what you're hearing. You're aware what you're smelling, isn't it? And what is the benefit of becoming more aware? The immediate benefit is that you'll stop making mistakes. Second benefit is your perception will improve. And third benefit is the moment your perception improves, your action also gets improved or gets refined. So those are the benefits of becoming more aware, more present, more being in the now. Yeah, and other benefits include that you will feel less of regret, less of guilt, less of anxiety, right? Like this is the best moment to practice this method so that you can be more in the now, because we don't know what is going to happen in 21 days. Right? So there is no point worrying about future. There is no point feeling guilty about your past. Right? So this sato dirghakala nairantarya satkara sevita drida bhumi. Yeah? So your mind will actually become like a earth. Earth symbolizes here is the stability, the equanimity. Yeah? And the most important element in this three aspect is honor. Yeah, it is said that every session, like everybody is watching, are you all sitting or listening with a sense that maybe I'll get something new out of it, or it will be just another session that, oh, I'm online and let me check out what is my friend talking about. Yeah, so that is listening with honor. It's very, very, very important and a very profound knowledge that we should practice. Are we honoring everything in our life? Huh? Now, that is one leg of what you do in your life is, for example, you want to become an expert at system thinking or artificial intelligence or cooking or stitching or becoming a kindergarten teacher or becoming a social worker. So all these things that you want to do in life, there is this practice that you need to do. And how? As I said, for a long period of time, without a break and with honor and respect. So is practice or abhyasa enough? So also, before going to the next step, it is said that sometimes let's say when we feel low, we practice various pranayama, meditation, kriya, and certain days when we feel, oh, aaj maza nahi aaya, है ना? Or sometimes you see that people who are indulged in sports, right? And a lot of Indians and people around the world, they like cricket as a sport. And kabhi kabhi lagta hai, sometimes you feel, oh, the day was not so good today. So the first thing you should observe is, oh, see, are you doing your, are you practicing continuously? Are you doing it with honor and respect? And then if you'll find one of these two things you'll not be doing, and hence you'll not be feeling good at what you're doing. Yeah. So to take back, if you have to have one takeaway from this talk, is to have honor and respect to every aspect of your life. Your whole life should itself be like a prayer. Yeah. Also, honor the knowledge, honor the master. Yeah, if your teacher or your guru has given you something, has given you a word, have respect for your master or have respect for your teacher. It is said, right? Like, you should respect your teachers, you should respect all the people whom you consider are your gurus in life. Otherwise, it will not work. The meditation will not work. And you will see what happens when you honor, it awakens your inner consciousness and it awakens or improves the awareness in you. Yeah, so very, very, very important is to have respect for your master. I like to tell a small story here. It is said that when in Mahabharata, when they were supposed to start the war, Duryodhana looked at the army of Pandavas. So Pandavas were smaller in number, but Duryodhana's army was larger in number. But you know what did he do? He turned around to his guru. He turned around to Guru Dronacharya and said, "See, who told you to teach Pandavas so well? Now that you have taught them well, see, now they are standing against your own son and you and fighting." This is the most, you can say, a very immature thing that you do is you disrespect your guru or your teacher or your elders. Yeah, vis-a-vis, it is said that Yudhishthira, so the chief commander of Pandava army was Yudhishthira, right? So when he was starting the war, he asked his charioteer, the one who was driving the chariot, he said, "Hey dude, wait." And then he went down of the chariot, got down, and then he removed his shoes. Okay, he removed his headgear, that is his mukut. Yeah, so headgear represents he is removing his ego, no? He has some position. So he is removing his position, he is removing that head weight, and then he removes his Gandhiva, the armor. Okay, so all the skills that he has attained, right? He removes them and he keeps it on the chariot and he walks barefoot towards the Kaurava army. And everybody tells, "Hey, are you okay? Why are you going towards them? They will kill you." He said, "No, they are all my gurus. I need to take their blessings." And it is said that he goes and he touches all his seniors' feet and he said, "Please bless me that only people, whatever is right, may that happen." And then he gets the blessings from all his seniors. So it is very, 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 very important to always respect your master and to always respect the guru in your life. Yeah. Like a good musician will always respect the music teacher who has taught him. A good sportsman will always respect the coach, right? So respect and reverence is very important. It will raise the awareness in you and it will keep you grounded. Yeah. Also, astrologically, this is the time, 2020 and 21 is the year when Jupiter and Saturn are mostly conjunct. And what is Saturn teaching all of us is that you be a perfect servant. Okay, you serve the society and you be very humble as well as have lot of respect. Don't be egoistical. Yeah, know that all the talent that you have received is just a gift and the gift is to share, right? So for example, you have a talent for singing and you don't utilize it, maybe God will think, "Hey, why should I give her this talent?" She will not use it. So whatever talents or whatever good things you have in your life is a talent for you to share with everybody, right? So this is what we spoke about Abhyasa. The second and the other most important complementary, or you can say they are like the two wheels of a train, So the first wheel is practice and the second wheel is Vairagya. Passion and dispassion. Actually it is passion, compassion and dispassion. Practice and Vairagya, dispassion. It is said Drishta Anushravika Vishayo Vitrishnasya Vashikara Sangha Vairagyam. So when we talk to people about spirituality does not mean that you or dispassion doesn't mean that you leave everything and go and then you renounce everything. No, it is you honor and respect but have a say over your senses. Stay in this world and yet continue to do your practice. There is a story that there was once a sannyasi. Sannyasi is the one who has renounced, who has completed all the responsibility of this world and who has renounced. So as a part, in olden days, there was brahmacharya, then there was grihasthrashram, then there was vanaprasthashram, and then there is sannyas. So the last stage is sannyas. So in sannyas, you are relieved of all your responsibility, you are relieved of all your relations. So there was this one sannyasi who used to attend session, and his mother, who was very, was yearning for her son, used to come and stay in his sessions, but he never used to meet her. So is this the right way? Well, the answer is no, because somebody who is your mother, if you cannot treat them well and you're good to all the other people, it doesn't sound good or is not the right way. So honoring your relationships and yet being a complete dispassionate person. Now what do you mean by dispassion? Okay, like it is said that your five senses always drive outwards and they are always enjoying the world. So your mind is constantly on a merry-go-round. Actually, it just goes round and round, and there are these horses that keep galloping and they don't go anywhere. So if you have one desire, you fulfill that, and then there is another desire. So one desire leads to another, and the whole life goes away like this. Yeah. So what does yoga helps you to do is always take some time in your day to retrieve your whole five senses and say, okay, no matter how good the movie is, I will not see it. No matter how good the music is, maybe I'll not listen to it for some time. No matter how good the fragrance is, I'll not smell it. I'm not interested. Let me just sit and repose in my own self. And if you start doing this at least for a couple of minutes every day, you will see that you'll get a spiritual or an emotional stamina, and that will again help you to attain the steadiness and be in the present moment. Yeah. So Vairagya is very, very, very important. Now, there are two types of people. Like for example, somebody may say, you know what, Preeta, you say it is good to have no desire. No, that's not what we are saying. So some people will say, oh, there should be no desire at all, right? That is another desire again. Some people will say, oh, let us have all the desires. So if you sit on meditation saying, oh, now I have become, I've renounced everything and now I am not going to listen to anybody. No. Then that is another desire that you have. Yeah. Vitrinasya vashikara. Actually, the craving for any one of these senses. What happens when you have craving is your mind keeps galloping. The why and the why and the why keeps on, it just keeps continuing. The gallop of the mind is due to the craving or the aversion that you have towards people, places or things in your life. If you have dispassion, you are not giving up any of this pleasure. You will still eat, you will still see good things, and all the five senses, you will still enjoy this world through your five senses. But you will not be unhappy because you don't attach the desire of your happiness to that person, to that place, to that thing. You know that you are the source of happiness. Isn't it right? Right? So there is an example, like for example, if I think that if I get that ice cream, then I'll be happy. So what I've done, I've placed a clause of my happiness on the ice cream. But if I realize that I am happiness, so I am happy and I will have an ice cream too. What happens in the second case is that it's okay if I don't have an ice cream as well because I am happy. So even if that object of happiness that I think is goes away, it is still okay and I'm still happy. That is the meaning of having a good vairagya. Happiness is a mere idea of mind. Yeah. From happiness, vairagya is putting a stop to the craving of the happiness. Okay. Also, we must study the craving, like what is it that you have craving for. And it is generally attached to some memory, that you may generally have a tea and you feel happy. So the mind, the next time you say, hey, you want to be happy, why don't you have a cup of tea, and then you again have a cup of tea. Yeah. So a thought, if you attend to that and encourage a thought for 7 days, it becomes a desire. If you attend to that desire for 30 days, it becomes a habit. If you attend to it for 180 days, it becomes a obsession, and more than 180 days, it becomes a part of you. Yeah. So the second sutra is tat param purushakyayet gunaha vaitri nischayam. Yeah. So one is either you're very attached or you're very scared. Oh, I don't want to think about sweets. No. Then you're still attached to that sweet, right? So knowing that, oh, I am happy and I want that sweet, so I'll enjoy that sweet more. That is param vairagya, when you know that you're total bliss and total pleasure, and then you have no fears of all the gunas. You know, there are said to be 3 characteristics of this human being, is that it is sato guna, it is rajo guna, and it is tamo guna. All the 3 are necessary, but we don't need to indulge in any one of these more, so that we get vata, pitta and kapha as doshas. Yeah. But you don't need to be scared of them. You need to understand that you are the source. Whatever is the source of joy, peace and contentment is inside you. You just need to be in touch with it. Then what happens is you can enjoy this world more. You will be having no fear of the gunas, and you will having no fear of the world. You know, so a lot of people think, oh, what if I die tomorrow and everything will get over? You know, and that's why they hoard a lot of money, so that, you know, maybe the next generation can enjoy it. Yeah, this is parama vairagya, total bliss and total pleasure. And everybody has their own version of enlightenment also. If I ask any one of you, what do you think is enlightenment? Right? If I ask a Christian, they say only poor can get enlightened. So Rama can never be enlightened because, hey, come on, he is a king. How can he get enlightened? Similarly, Jains thinks that, you know, how can Krishna be enlightened? A lot of them think that, you know, he started the war. In Sankhya Yoga, the 2nd chapter of Gita, when Arjuna saw that, oh, there are all my family members I'm going to kill, he said, dude, you know what, I give up and I'm going to take sannyas. So then, you know, Krishna brainwashed him and said, hey dude, what are you doing? This is not the right way. Get up and you need to fight. And the war happened. So how can he be enlightened? And moreover, he is just a butter thief and he has so many wives. How can he be enlightened? So in Jain religion, the sadhus are supposed to be nude because they have to be free of lust. So how do they know that Krishna is free of lust? Yeah, when he has so many wives. How can he be enlightened? So everybody, Buddhists have their own way of enlightenment. That they say that, oh, once you renounce your family, you cannot go back. Right? In fact, in even medieval ages, they said, oh, why we should not give women are not supposed to be, or rather I think it got distorted somewhere, stating that, you know, when women started to take care of the family, that's how it started. Then it somewhere in the Middle Ages, it just got distorted that women cannot read Vedas and women don't have right to knowledge, whereas that was not the case. So a couple of 100 years back on this land. Yeah. So what is enlightenment is, you may have various ideas. Some may see some light, some say that kundalini happens. No, you should, if you see how much can you give, how much dispassionate are you, how much can you let go of things in life, these are the metrics that you should measure your spiritual growth or your inner strength with. The world will only look or judge you on things that, like how much money you have, how good you are looking, how many children you have. But these are so impermanent. Nobody will look at your inner being, and that is something that you yourself can only see. See how centered are you. See how much dispassion have you inculcated in yourself. See how much wise you have grown. Yeah. So being centered and having dispassion is a good metric to look at life when we want to judge ourselves. And all this knowledge will give you that spiritual and mental stamina to pass through the difficult times in life. Yeah. This happens, this thing that about having dispassion and about having doing dedicated practice is what yoga helps you. It helps you to get skill in action. One of the other beautiful sutras is yogascha karmasu kaushalam. The more a person is centered, the more he is doing everything according to the laws of nature, according to the correct script that one is supposed to do, he'll become more skillful and he can act more skillfully. That is when yoga happens. It is so beautiful that it gives you the skill to be with people and to be in love, and not to convert that love into hatred. It is said that, look at our own life, okay, that everybody loves somebody. How long does that love stays? Right? So it stays maybe for a couple of minutes, couple of months, and then the same person whom you love is a person you feel angry towards. So it's a skill that it is very, very important to learn as to loving people, loving this world, and preserving this for a long period of time. And that skill is that preservative that maintains love as love all the time. Yeah. So it's very beautiful and a very profound a subject that one should think about. That what is steadfastness, what does it mean to do things for a correct continuous period of time, and what does it means to honor, what is practice, what is enlightenment, what is dispassion, is it needed, if I do it what will I get out of it, is it possible to do something that is related to my own mind and my own self, that is so untouched from this whole, from all the roles and relationships that we have. Is it possible? So it's a journey worth endeavoring and walking on. So keep this spirit of inquiry in you alive until we meet next time. So if anybody has any question, they can let me know. Yeah, what do you mean by skill in action is, see, for example, you have a very difficult boss. Okay, it is said that all the difficult people you have in life to bring out the skill in you, so you can find innovative ways of managing your boss. Yeah, I think that is the best example that I can give is yoga helps you. Only when you are centered will you be able to see beyond that person's action. Somebody is angry, do you angry? No. So any person who generally gets angry is actually a victim who is crying for help. So you will see beyond his action, and then, as I said, you will be able to situation better, and then whatever decisions you will take will be the correct one. Yeah, so much for today. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comment section and I'll come back to you. Okay, we'll come up with a couple of more sessions now that we have time. I would really request and suggest everybody to pick up any book, any field that you like, and start reading or doing something that you want. You can paint, you can cook, you can do anything that helps you to cultivate your right brain. Yeah, it is very much essential in an age where things are so fast. Yeah, thank you so much and see you next time.